Hello, today I want to share some tips on how to beat survival difficulty. This is a scenario where you're racing against time to come up with ever increasing amounts of legal tender, or you'll be destroyed. The first bribe is for $7,000 in legal tender due in 7 days. That's not too difficult, but the next mission will be to come up with 18,000 in 10 days, then 32,000 in 10 days, then 80,000 in 2 weeks. Each mission will roughly double how much you have to pay, until you just can't pay. If you can't come up with the money, the terror bar will go to full. Everybody will come after your capo. He will be executed and you lose a lot of buildings. The description warns you that this mode is for experienced players or masochists, or both. So fellow experienced masochists, make yourself comfortable as I show you how to beat survival. Okay, now, which boss should I start with? You can get a head start even before you start the scenario by choosing the right capo. Some people unlock buildings without the need to research them, and you should take advantage of that. You lose the tech once the capo dies, but while they're still alive, it allows you to research techs that come after that. For example, some people give you Farm 2, right? Farm 2 is kind of amazing, so that unlocks Farm 3 for research right away, even if you haven't unlocked Tier 2, and you definitely should get it. Oh, so I can research this right away. Yes, must. Once your capo dies, you lose access to Farm 2, but you'll already have access to Farm 3, so it doesn't matter. You could do the same for another tech, but most Tier 3 techs are locked behind the university, so they're not as useful as Farm 2. Who's available depends on which capos you've unlocked, but Jesus Garza is there by default. He's a good choice for your first capo. Black Jesus, we'll go with that. How you make money will depend on what province you start in and what capo you chose. If you have access to a river port or an airfield, you should start with opium. It's one of the easiest crops to start with and doesn't require you to research anything. The most important thing in this scenario is to make money right away. You don't have the luxury of sitting back and going for more profitable targets. If you took my early advice and have access to Farm 2, you can also grow avocados. They sell for a good profit at first, and the bonus is that they sell for legal tender. They're great for provinces with seaports, but don't rely on them only because the price will drop a lot. They're a good little bonus early on, but you should sell more than just avocados. Okay, so I need something to launder the money. You have to pay the bribe amount in legal tender, so make sure you set up a laundering building right away. I recommend going for jewelry stores first because they're cheaper, followed by casinos. You can build them with dirty money and they launder a decent amount of money every cycle. Eventually you'll want banks, but be careful about when you build them, because they can only be built with legal tender. Casinos and jewelry stores are your go-tos early on. Casinos big, but very expensive at this stage. Don't bother with taxi companies, or the circus, or similar buildings. They don't launder enough money, and your cities don't have enough slots to make them worth building. In other scenarios, it doesn't really matter what money you use to pay buildings, but in survival you have to focus on using dirty money. Make sure you understand how to use residences to pay buildings before you start this scenario. Early on you won't be able to afford residences. Ooh, okay. That could be painful. That could end up being painful. But it does mean that I can basically supply money to these guys without having to do it myself. So make sure to use gang members to shift dirty money around to pay buildings. Pausing isn't really necessary in other modes, but in survival you want to maximize every second. There's no penalties for pausing, so pause whenever you need to do something like placing new buildings or setting orders. Only unpause once you've done everything you can while paused and you need time to pass for your orders to be carried out. But no matter what, don't pay your buildings with legal tender. Keep in mind that having loads of farms does you no good if you can't sell the product. Invest in upgrading facilities to make sure you can sell as much as possible. Okay, let's see, upgrade immediately, now, right now. But you can also sell to other gangs. I think she'll buy opium. It's not as profitable as selling things directly, but it's an option when you're producing too much of a good. Oh shit, that is not possible. But no matter what you do, eventually the bribe amounts will be so large that you won't be able to meet them. What happens then is that the terror level will max out. Holy shit, that is high. That is high. Failed. Oh my god. The police, the federals, the DEA, the National Army, the CIA, and the US Army will all come for you at the same time. There's no way to win against all of them, so don't bother. Some buildings will be arrested, some will be blown up, and your couple will die. But it's not the end of the world if you know how to manage it. When the bribe mission is about to end, move your couple to a location by himself because he'll be targeted. Also, move all your gang members to a safe spot because they can get caught up in the fights and you can easily end up losing your entire gang by mistake. The indigenous territory or a neutral location is a good spot. Your couple dying will reset the loyalty and terror meters. So early on, don't bother spending legal tender on running loyalty events and don't worry too much about raising terror because you'll be losing couples pretty often. But as bad as things sound, there's a silver lining to the cloud. If your couple dies, the bribe missions get reset to the lowest level, so your new couple only has to pay 7,000 at first. And because you kept most of your dirty money, most of your buildings, and most of your gang, you should be able to rebuild pretty quickly. There's two things that can't get destroyed when you fail the bribe mission. One is your city buildings, so you won't lose your casinos, banks and universities. The other is your research, so make sure you're always researching something. But things like say research, they stay. So you can kind of sacrifice couples in order to get more research, right? When it looks like you won't be able to pay the bribes, it's sometimes worth sacrificing the capo and investing the money in a new building or more research instead of trying to fulfill the bribe mission. Make sure you're researching and upgrading your selling points too, especially unlocking real peer too, to make sure you can always sell as much as possible. After that, consider banks too, but only if you're bringing in more than 30,000 in dirty money per week. But don't forget universities. Unlocking tier 3 buildings is the key to winning the scenario. Get educated, folks. Get educated. My god, I sacrificed a whole bunch of bosses for this. Most provinces in the game will have gangs already there. Sometimes you might get lucky and you can take over the neighboring province without opposition, but usually there's another gang. Talk to them regularly and keep up the relations. Sell them surplus stock, but always keep in mind that expansion is the key to survival. Nice, okay, so keep recruiting for your own gang. The first tier people are actually free to recruit, so yeah. No matter how bad the recruit looks, you should avoid recruiting people like this. They'll be useful for something, even if it's just as the next sacrificial capo. Yeah, I'll hire him. He's gonna be a pain in the butt, but I'll hire him. Spending a bit of money raising loyalty for the power bonus is a good way to get your power high enough to absorb neighboring capos. Ideally, you should raise loyalty by spending dirty money to buy goods from the locals. Don't neglect expansion. Staying in the same province is a recipe for disaster. You should be aiming for 3 provinces, each with banks, casinos, and jewelry stores in order to keep up with the bribe missions. Taking over a province or a facility involves doing missions for them. One idiosyncrasy about the game is that if you lose your capo, any missions you've already done are reset, and you have to start over from the first mission again. Oh shit, you gotta do it all over again. Oh bloody hell, okay, so that resets everything. But you keep anything you already own. So the best way to approach these missions is to make sure that you can do them all and take over before you lose your current capo. It might look impossible, but you can't defeat a full terror bar. You'll need a large gang, and if you've been recruiting everybody and rival capos like I've been saying, then you should be okay, even if you lose a few capos. Make it a priority to capture the army base. If you supply it with enough opium, you'll be able to station your gang members and get a +2 bonus to their power. Raising the loyalty of the population also gives you another +1 bonus to power for each of your gang members. If you get all the bonuses, even the weakest of your gang members will have a 3 power rating. We get a bonus for here, +1. Then we get a +2 for each person. If your gang is large enough, your power rating should be greater than 80, and that's high enough to defeat even the US Army. 75 strength total. We gotta be able to beat the US Army, come on. See, assault resisted, oh my god! This does not end the scenario despite what you might expect. What happens in the game now? You'll still get follow-up bribe missions, but it will ensure your capo does not die, and your buildings will not get blown up. But if you can defeat the full terror bar once, you can do it whenever you want, and from then on it's just a matter of letting the time pass until the scenario ends. The scenario will feel extremely unfair at first, but as long as you keep my advice in mind, you'll eventually be able to defeat it. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. See you soon.